a very good time to be here for the first time. And welcome everybody who's here for the umpteenth time. And for those who haven't been here for a while and who are back, we're very happy to see you all. So we begin, as I mentioned, it's our intention that everything we do is oriented to be of benefit to ourselves, to be of benefit to others. And welcome also online people. Hi. So we have a verse that we sing that is on a sheet of paper that I believe you have. And Umzela, Claire, will lead that. And do you need a microphone? Maybe once we get another microphone, you can get one of these things. Okay. It's all about the tech for some people. Please. Just tell people where it is.
These are the two aspiration verses on this yellow sheet, about halfway down the page. May all beings always have happiness and its causes. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes. For as long as space abides, as long as the world remains, just so long may I be there, resolving all beings' pain. And with that intention, we have some moments of cultivating attention so that we're gathering our presence to really be here in this moment, in this place. Whatever you might have been doing before, today, earlier in the day, let it go. It's not here now. Whatever you might be planning to do later in the day, let it go. It's not here now. We are practicing being in the present so that we can be awake to our own lives, which are actually always taking place in the present, and only in the present. And because our body and breath is always in the present, even when our mind skitters to the past and the future, our body, your breath, is here in this moment. The breath of a minute ago is gone. The breath of this moment is what you are breathing. And so we take a moment to settle in a bit, which is really another way of saying we take a moment to relax, to shed the tensions that go along with worrying about the future, dwelling in the past. You may notice that as you start to meander into the past and the future, it's usually associated with some hope and some worry that that hope won't be fulfilled. And so it drives tension in your body. So when we talk about being at ease and being relaxed, we mean letting go of that kind of hope, worry. We just let it go, at least for this moment, when we're safe enough in this room, comfortably supported by our cushion or chair. Nothing big is going to happen. It's safe. It's comfortable. There are like-minded people around you. So there's really nothing to worry about and nothing to hope for either. If your meditation is good, nobody is going to stand up and point out to you that you have done great meditation and praise you in front of the crowd. If your meditation is, quote, not good, nobody is going to chastise you.
And hopefully you also will be equanimous, however your meditation turns out. You're just relaxed. You're just sitting here, feeling the contact of the bottom of your body with your chair or your cushion. That is happening right in this moment. Brings you exactly into the present, just to feel that contact. And that contact that you are sensing right now is actually an expression of very deep support that rises to you from the center of the earth, which in fact is directly beneath you. Just like that. You can experience yourself as supported from the very center of this great earth, held, supported, in a way that you can trust. Trust is also associated with relaxing, letting go of fear, defensiveness. There's nothing particularly going to happen. We're just going to be here. And so you can direct your attention now to your breath. And notice how you can feel your incoming breath. You can feel it, do you not? Maybe you feel it in your chest as your chest expands. The incoming breath offers a kind of refreshment, opens your chest, perhaps opens your heart. Perhaps you feel it in your belly. It's energy coming in, nourishing you, feeding you, enlivening you. It's your breath. Just pay attention to the sensation. There's no way that it should be. There's nothing to do to fix it one way or another. You just feel it the way it is. Exactly the way it is right now. You just sense into it. Certainly don't try to make it better or worse, whatever that would even mean. You're just present. You're not hoping for it to be one particular way or fearful that it will be another particular way. You're just open, receptive, and you experience it as it arises. And then comes that delicious moment when you've taken in all that you need for this breath and you're satisfied and you're ready to let go and enjoy the relaxation that comes with that letting go. That's all. It's a completely natural process. You're not actually doing anything. You're not changing your breath. You're just paying attention to the experience. That's all. So we'll sit here breathing mindfully together. Your attention is riding your breath. You are aware of the different sensations, some of them quite subtle, the different sensations of the inflow and outflow of your breath. You're aware of the refreshment that comes in when you inhale. You're aware of the easeful, natural, totally natural relaxation when you exhale. That's all. So we'll continue like this for a few minutes. And to whatever extent you are present to the feeling, the sensations of your own breathing, you're in the present. Just enjoying being right here in this moment of your life. And whenever you notice that your mind has gone off elsewhere, you just bring it back, just like that. It's easy. Keep your attention on your breath. Harvey and I will softly sing an invocation just to further support the field of your practice. You just stay focused, gently present, this moment of your breathing. Gyabda gyalwanam tangyer mebe, gandrin sumden chinchan lama che, rizin jorme trupten chasola, so wadep sonyam len tarchin sho. Like tea leaves settling in water, just letting yourself settle. And if you're not settling, then that's your present moment, that's all. There's no fight, no struggle. You're just present to whatever your experience is, because it's present. And now you know how we begin. Whatever meditation we're going to do, we always begin with some cultivation of attention, presence, so that we can be there for whatever our practice is. We invite you to take this home with you. If you're just beginning to have a daily practice or thinking about a practice, please take this home with you. As you see, it's very simple. And it also is a very profound basis, because as you come into the present, maybe some of you feeling already a little more settled, a little more quiet, just a little more you, really, just a little more alive, a little less distracted, a little less beset by all of the things that beset our minds. They might come back, truth to tell. They're not gone forever, but we get a respite, we get an oasis. We get a little bit of an experience of what it's like to be without this constantly flowing network of distracting thoughts. And we realize that this is something we actually do have access to. Yes, we do, everyone. We have access to it. And even just a few minutes on a regular basis, a daily basis, maybe a little in the evening, a little in the morning, and that channel of connection to that aspect of our being, that possibility for us, it grows. People who have been here for a while will tell you, or people who have been practicing in any tradition for a while will tell you that after a while there's a little shift. There's a little more possibility to sit down and be present. And it's a very delicious possibility. There's a lot of promise. It's like a fertile garden. Many things can grow from it. So we always, in some way or other, we always cultivate being in the present, and we always cultivate, in some way, the deepening of our attention at the beginning of a session.
So this being an introductory class, I thought I would say a little bit about some of the basic positive contributions that a simple practice of attention can offer us. I think most of us have had an experience where we live in our ordinary day-to-day existence and we have a kind of ordinary consciousness. If you read a lot of spiritual writing, there can be a lot of words for an ordinary state, but we all sort of know we're sort of a little bit dull, we sort of multitask, our mind is here and our mind is there, we're listening to somebody and we're sort of attending to our phone and we're listening to some music in the background. And when we're involved in that kind of ordinary mind, part of what's going on, according to neuroscience, is that we're probably living in a world of what's called invariant representation. And invariant representation is the shorthanded way that our brains, shorthanded way that our brains allow us to work effectively and efficiently. So I look at Robert or I look at Chelsea and I say, oh, it's Robert or it's Sengo or it's Chelsea. And I think to the 5 times I saw them each beforehand, oh, and it's the same Robert, and the same Chelsea, it's the same Sengo. And, you know, the fact that there may have been a change in anybody's life since I saw them doesn't even enter my imagination. And we're sort of in a kind of administrative, got to deal with information rapidly, kind of dullish state. But every now and then something breaks through. Sometimes it's a tragedy. Somebody recently recalled what it felt like to be alive and when 9/11 happened. You know, we're rapidly approaching 9/11 and most people who were alive have some memories of that occasion. And it was shocking, unknown. We didn't know what was really coming. But I don't know about your own experience, but in my experience, there was also a kind of rawness. Positive word for rawness might be freshness. A kind of actual natural compassion for all of us. that arose in the shock of it all. But it might happen when you know, have a vacation and you go to someplace new and you go to a lake in Austin, or you go to the beach in South Padre, or you go to the mountains of Colorado, or you go to England, or you go to a new museum. And all of a sudden you see things without that kind of invariant representation. You see things freshly. And the freshness may be so different that you recognize that there's a quality of aliveness and a quality of depth and a quality of inspiration that you don't normally swim in. Or it may happen that you're talking with somebody who you think you know, and all of a sudden one of you takes a risk and starts talking about something very, very heartfelt, and they start talking about, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and I don't know if I should still be in oil and gas, and I'm thinking of taking up oil painting for 2 years. And it's like, whoa, it would never occur to me to take up oil painting for 2 years. But then all of a sudden you start thinking, what would tickle my string? And you start thinking, and golly gee, you know, I've always really wanted to learn how to cook vegetarian food. And boy, would that mean something to me if I could study with somebody who really knew how to cook well. And you start feeling something, and you start saying, golly gee, you know, you're inspiring me. Maybe I could explore cooking vegetarian food. And the other person is saying, yeah, and when I'm studying oil painting, you know, I've always wanted to learn how to draw cartoons. And, you know, I've never allowed myself to really think about being a cartoon artist. Wow, you're going to be a cartoon artist. And, you know, golly gee, I have a real interest in working with vegan specialties. And I really think that would express something about me. And not only that, I want to do that with poor children and introduce poor children to vegan food. And you're each in completely new territory, and you realize that the sense of yourself that you're always carrying has been shattered, and this other person, and you never knew who they were, and all the interests that they have, and actually the interests are emerging right as you're talking to them. And it's like all of a sudden you feel alive. And you didn't realize you were even feeling dead until that moment. One of the things that the kind of simple attentional practice that we just taught is a gateway towards, is allowing us to see more perceptually clearly what's actually happening in the moment. It's very, very hard to think the following thought, but it's really, and Anne said it, but I'm just going to repeat it. The past is absolutely gone. We have like a feeling like this building still exists yesterday. There's no building yesterday. All of those atoms are gone. Yesterday's atoms are finito. Whatever, if you had a map of where the electrons and everything was in yesterday's atoms, that map would not apply today whatsoever. And tomorrow's have not occurred yet. And how wide is the present? It actually is a very, very interesting issue. The psychotherapist who recently died, whose name was Daniel Stern, and he wrote a book, I'm forgetting the name of it now, but it was about the present. And for him, the present was about 7 syllables long, or 7 notes of music. It's an interesting definition of the present because that's about what your mind holds in active memory. 7 syllables, 7 notes, something like that. That was one form of the present. It's interesting, in Buddhist philosophy, some people would say the present is a moment. But when they start looking at it even more closely and cleverly, you might not even be able to put your hands on a moment, and so the present may be kind of undefinable. Even though we think we've got something we can put our hands on, it's kind of nothing you can nail down. I want to grab the last moment and it's already gone. The next one hasn't come yet, and this one, before I can even blink, oops. Now, of course, it would be kind of very, very difficult to live a life where we weren't overcome with our memories. If everything were fresh, we would be overwhelmed. You would go into Kroger's and it would take you a week to get from the vegetable section to the frozen food section. Because you'd be looking at every item, you'd want to figure out what is it, because you wouldn't know. What is it called? What do prices mean? And there are so many of these things that would need to be explained to you. Really, it would take a week to get through Kroger's. And you know, sometimes when we're tired, we go into one of these mega stores, and it's like, you know, where do you start? And how do you negotiate it? Because there's so much information. But we switch into a certain gear, and we actually can go through those superstores, and we get what we want, and we're in and out in half an hour, and we do notice we feel sort of exhausted when we walk out, or at least some of us do. But probably haven't had a real experience of freshness, aliveness, curiosity, unusualness. You know you want Kellogg's protein flakes, and that's what you're heading for. And you know you want your skim milk, and that's what you head for. And you know you want your brown eggs, and that's what you go for. And everything else is irrelevant. And you see, skim milk, and it's like, boom, boom. So there's usefulness to that. But when we're dealing with people, it can be very, very limiting. So one of the things that attentional practice does, it allows us to refine our perception so that we start actually experiencing our own experience and the experience of others ever more delicately and carefully and in detail. If you have anything to do with human beings and you can perceive those human beings more clearly, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Some people, and on my bad days, I might talk to Anne and I might be looking at my phone or my computer or to the right side of her ear, and I won't even notice her face. A lot of us do that. I'm not the only person who's guilty of something like that. But on other occasions, I can look at her face and I can notice every little muscle that's moving or quivering or laughing or smiling, or what she's doing with her cheeks, or sometimes she likes to keep a secret from me and she does something with her cheeks and her gums, and I know exactly what's going on in every muscle of every aspect of where her teeth are and where her tongue is. It's obvious to me. It's not that. It's very, very subtle. But if you, open your eyes, many, many things start revealing themselves. So I was going to start with the hardcore psychological benefits of doing awareness practice, but I decided to go into this because it's really very, very inspiring and very enlivening, and it opens us to the mysteries of life. And if we don't have a healthy dose of mystery in our lives, we become drones. Really, really. There are societies on this planet now which are so materialistic and where religion has become so verboten that it's very, very hard for people to allow the mystery, and their search for mystery, and their participation in the mystery of life full reign. The human heart still seeks it out, and people come to it with art and through their own spiritual quests. But it's actually helpful to sometimes go to some countries where people are living highly materialized experience to recognize how wonderful it is to be able to pursue something like a spiritual or psycho-spiritual enhancing practice. So awareness can enhance our psycho-spiritual experience of our lives and our being with others. And if we want to get very concrete in terms of what people are finding, you know, we can go from the physical. I was just reading an article the other day somebody sent to me that when we do this kind of awareness practice, there's a parasympathetic heightening. And parasympathetic is the system of our nervous system that calms things down. So something like a simple awareness practice seems to be correlated with a quieting down of our nervous system. And so accompanying that, some people seem to notice a lowering of things like blood pressure. Also, some people seem to experience things like improved immune functioning. Yay, I mean, come meditate and get better. But, you know, we don't advertise or materialize it that way, but there seems to be some correlation to some betterment of physical functioning, including immune functioning. The other big area that attentional practice seems to be very, very useful, there's a whole bunch of literature now on what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, dialectical behavioral therapy, mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy for depression, all sorts of admixtures of mindfulness practice into mental health practice. But what's the simple core benefit that all of these initialized, trademarked therapeutic systems are working with is that when we cultivate attention, we're typically observing the processes of mind and body. People who don't meditate and are sitting down and a thought comes up, I need to go shopping at H-E-B. Often people just, I need to go shopping at H-E-B, and they'll start getting up and they'll go. Or I need to call my spouse, my friend, my lover, my enemy, whoever. Thought occurs, action follows, not skipping a beat. When we're cultivating attention and we're observing the breath, then thoughts come and go, but we're not snagged by those thoughts. We're developing a capacity for being aware without being reactive. And reactivity is probably, if you want to summarize what is the biggest issue with when we have emotional difficulty, it's reactivity. You looked at me askance, I feel depressed. I heard that something positive happened, and I go like almost insane with anticipation and hopefulness. It's all right to be hopeful and it's okay to be sad, but sometimes we get so reactive, we can't even contain ourselves. We can't function. I have an exam tomorrow. I'm so worried. I'm so worried. I'm so worried. I might fail. I might fail. I might fail. I might fail. But if you're practicing attentional practice, and you have an exam tomorrow, and the thought might come, I might fail. So it just comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. And you're focusing on your breathing. And you might notice if you've sitting for 10 or 15 minutes, that when you get up, you still recognize you might have some fear that I might fail tomorrow, but it feels thinner, it feels lighter. You don't become a Buddha sitting for 20 minutes. You may not even become a Buddha sitting for 20 years. I haven't. But things have changed dramatically. And so meditation is a slow, gradual, but real process where we do these practices. A lot of people think they're going to sit down and then just their mind is going to go silent, like turning a light bulb off. It's typically not like that. But if you sit day in and day out, and there's stuff coming up every day, but occasionally, oh, nothing's coming up right now. That's interesting. And tomorrow you sit and a lot of stuff comes up. And then 3 weeks later, nothing comes up. And all of a sudden you have some experience of what it's like to have a quiet mind, which you never experienced before. Or you notice that when people are talking, you can hear every little aspect of their intonation. And when somebody calls you up and they say, it's a kind of a tough day, you can actually feel the very, very nature of the quality of what they're talking about. So, just to summarize, there are definitely deep psycho-spiritual benefits to the coming into the present that meditation brings, and the freshness to life that it can bring. It can bring some very, very concrete health benefits, including better immune system, lower blood pressure, and psychologically less reactivity. And so we encourage you to try some kind of regular practice of just sitting and observing the breathing. This is something we teach on Tuesdays when we gather and we have retreats. We usually do some intentional practice. But Anne will now say some things about another aspect of practice that we also can do.
So attention is really the basis. You sort of have to be there for anything else to happen. Just like if you're making contact with another human being, which is one of the great challenges and joys of life, you have to be there, or there won't be any contact. So this making contact through the cultivation of attention, we've touched on that. There are other aspects, there are dimensions to it for us yet to explore on this journey, and certainly we invite all of you to join, continue this journey as much as you feel like doing. There's only so much you can present in the beginning. But certainly you have already tasted the possibility of attention, and many of you have tasted also some of the fruits of cultivating attention over a considerable period of time. Some of you have tasted a lot of fruit, and we wish you more fruit. And one of the things that can occur as we cultivate attention, we also have the possibility to cultivate certain qualities. And this is particularly our focus when we begin our sequence 2 weeks from tonight, cultivating the boundless states of love and compassion. this too begins with the cultivation of attention. We use also our capacity to think, actually. Some people think that meditation means giving up all thinking. Well, yes, when we're cultivating attention, we're not paying attention. We're letting our thoughts float by. We're not up in our heads, thankfully so. We're in our bodies, we're feeling our breathing, and that is a very important basis, as we've said several times, for meditation. And yet, it can be appropriate to reflect as another type of meditation. Well, let's see. They're talking about next time beginning a sequence of teachings on cultivating love, let's say. Why would I want to do that? What I need in life is to keep my wits about me. I don't need to cultivate love. I already know who I love. And that's difficult enough. No more love in my life, thank you very much. Okay, you might have that idea. You might have any number of reactions to this startling statement that we're going to, what do you mean cultivate love? Either you love or you don't, you might feel. We tend to feel that way about our emotions. Either they're there or they're not. But what we discover, and we discover it partly through the cultivation of attention, that we can cultivate qualities. Over the summer, and the tapes are still available, we cultivated equanimity, which is freedom from certain kind of reactivity of either clinging overly strongly or pushing away overly strongly. That has its benefits. You have more inner space, you have more inner freedom. So you might want to cultivate a quality like love, but before you decide that that's something you want to do, you might reflect on it. Well, what are the benefits? Maybe there's a downside. Maybe I'll go all soft and gooey and, not be able to think sharply and stand my, I don't want to say stand my ground, but, to stand up for my positions and so on. So that kind of meditation is also part of the training that we also offer, and it will be a part of what we do in the coming weeks. I just want to mention that, lest you think that you have to give up your cognitive faculties altogether. Actually, what happens is that we can go deeper with what we actually know and think and believe, and kind of go back and forth between, love might mean, it might mean I have a more open heart toward everybody and I don't have to walk around with a ton of bricks in front of me in this kind of defensive way that most of us have in one form or another. And it's kind of burdensome, but we may not feel quite safe without it, so we keep putting them in there. And then, maybe I could think about lightening that load a little bit. Maybe I'll try it. You go back to attention, and it still feels comfortable in the body, and so on. So there might be some place for thinking and reflection. But it's not all about thinking and attention. We also, in some of our meditations, make use of sound and imagery. And this is actually a special feature of Tibetan traditions. So we'll go back for a moment to our just being in the present, just hanging out here, sitting on the seat, cushion, feeling the center of the earth directly beneath you. Why do we do that? There's a certain power in that. That's why I say that over and over again. And after a while, it becomes a kind of pointing to a capacity that we have to just be deeply grounded, deeply rooted. After a while, your body just learns it. So go back for a moment to observing your breath as we did before. And what we said before was if you are agitated, if you find that your mind goes elsewhere, you just bring it back. Just very gently bring it back. And you can always do that, and there are many traditions for whom this is a very central practice. And in fact, it remains a central practice for us. But maybe when you're agitated, you feel, I could use some help here. And there is help available, as you like. You could imagine, if you like, that there is an orb of luminous, radiant light just above the crown of your head, an orb of light. It's just there. It somehow expresses some capacity that you have. It has a little bit of a golden hue to it. So it's very bright and gentle at the same time. And it also is something like a magnet. It just gathers to itself from all over the universe streams of gently golden light start flowing into this orb of light above the crown of your head, bringing a quality of restful stability. Everything that you know about really being in restful clarity is coming to light with this orb at your crown, and it's being fed from all directions of the universe. And it begins to shed some light on you, kind of like a small drizzle of golden liquid light. You can adjust the color so it feels just right. It's kind of a brown gold. It's a very soothing, flowing kind of color. And these little droplets, luminous, deep gold, reddish gold, brownish gold, just what's right for you. Begin descending and enter through the crown of your head. Gently, like a very gentle rain will find its way it'll soak through anything because it's so fine, so delicate. And it goes wafting through the crown of your head and swooshing through your entire skull area. It's bringing refreshment, calm, rest, and a kind of inner luminosity. And it flows through down your arms, just kind of lighting you up, and like the best kind of massage oil applied from the inside. Smoothing, relaxing, opening what is closed, loosening what is tight, freeing what is knotted, dissolving what is obstructive. You don't have to think about this in any effortful way, just the sense that some kind of very positive and supportive flow is descending through you. It has a brightness to it. If you're feeling dull, it might be almost completely white, just kind of flowing through you, just in exactly the right measure to balance you. It flows through your entire body. And now the orb itself, which represents kind of golden fullness of calm, this golden orb itself, whitish gold, brownish reddish gold, just the right for you, begins to descend through your crown, past your throat, It becomes a luminous white orb in the center of your body at your chest, what we call our heart. It's not the physical heart, but the very center of you. And it's luminously clear. It's like a bubble of clear light expressing the clarity, expressing in visual form the clarity that comes through focusing attention. We're going to sound the sound Om 3 times. Feeling that this light and this sound and your awareness, kind of crystalline awareness that Harvey was talking about, is expanding through your entire body so that every cell is lighting up with this luminous, liquid light. It's waking up every cell. So as you feel the sound move through your body, the light is moving also. So just sound that 3 times and just see how that is for you. So you've experienced cultivating attention through resting on the breath, and a little bit of an introduction to how using sound, the sound of sound, the feeling of sound, perhaps associated with some imagery, might also be a way of gathering attention and being able to relax in a particular way. So how was that for you? Do you have questions? Do you have comments for either of us?
Microphone?
You were just being helpful.
There's a
Yeah,
question.
Shannon. Wait for the microphone, please.
So my question is, can you guys hear? Does
Wait,
it
is
sound
that
like it's
on? Can somebody check if that's on?
No?
Okie dokie. Now we
Okay,
can hear.
got it.
Okay. So my question is, when you're cultivating quietness and still thoughts and no thoughts, if at all possible, when you get a series of thoughts going that you're trying to let go of, but you know are important, is it okay to take notes? I mean,
So that's kind of a little private negotiation that you can have with yourself, right? You know, if there's some project that's really been on your mind and you suddenly get the be-all, end-all of ideas for it, you might take a note. But you might not want to get in the habit of always writing down things. Or you might decide today, no matter what comes up, you know, unless it's the idea to save the world, I'm just going to focus on my attention, developing my attention. And anyway, as soon as you're written down, okay, it's there, it's safe. Think about it later, and then come back. You don't have to fight with yourself, in short. I mean, your intention is to develop attention, and you can just come back to that. But, you know, there will never be no thoughts. Our orientation is to not be reactive to or carried away by them. We're not fighting them. We're not even really trying to stop them because actually it's impossible. We're just focusing on our breath. They come, fine. They go, fine. You know, like a little child playing safely in front of you. They're just there. They just do what they need to do. You don't try to stop them or make them put, you know, one block on top of another in a particular way. They just do what they do. And you stay there with your kind of surround love and attention. So you're just paying attention to your experience in the moment, particularly your physical, your embodied experience. Because as I said, the body's always in the moment, the mind rarely. And so you just come back to that because that's your purpose. Purpose is not to cook up a whole lot of good ideas, although they do come when you meditate. But, you know, your purpose is to focus and to get more and more of an experience of what it actually feels like in your body, to learn that. We're training, it's a training of the body as much of the mind. It's a training of the emotions as much as of thought. It's really a full organism training. And so we just sit there as we can, and thoughts will come, and we don't get all excited about it, and you just, oh yeah, that's what the mind does. It produces thoughts. Okay. Doesn't matter. I'm focusing on my breath. And attention itself is a form of love, as we have said. You know, and we'll talk about this more when we actually talk about the cultivation of love, which also means love for oneself. And the truth is, one of the finest ways that you can offer yourself love, the first step of that is going to be attention. Paying attention to yourself, you know. Many people think maybe that's selfish, or there's a particular kind of attention. It's not an obsessive attention, but paying attention is offering a certain kind of care. Just like we feel cared for when somebody, you know, if somebody looks you in the eyes and doesn't fiddle with their phone and, you know, really seems like all they're doing is talking to you, even if it's just for 35 seconds. It feels good, doesn't it? It just feels nice. As opposed to somebody who's, you know, like many of us do, all of us do some of the time. It's kind of like that, and oh, you? And then every once in a while, you know, your attention lands on the other person just long enough to keep up, and often enough to keep up with the conversation. Attention is a form of caring. So when we cultivate attention, we are cultivating an aspect of love also. These things flow together. So, hope that's helpful. Yes, then please take the microphone.
I have heard stories about
That's not on.
teachers.
I don't think, is it on, Paula?
Yes,
Yeah? Then Are you talking into it? Like an ice cream
Probably.
home, that's a cone.
I have a question
okay.
regarding practitioners that I've heard stories about who have been in caves to meditate, and they meditate, and they then, when they come back up, mold is growing on whatever food, and what is going? Have they ever written about what their thoughts were during that
About
kind
the
of
mold?
prolonged meditation?
There are many. Many of the great meditators have written biographies, autobiographies, and they have written about their experiences. And these can be quite inspiring for us. They can also be a little estranging for us, kind of depending on where we're at. And so the most important thing always becomes, I hear in that, a question about what kind of experience one might expect after doing devoted and serious and ongoing meditation. And I think that's a good question. And I think even more important than that is, what is your experience? You have some experience too, right? What has your experience been? Times when you have sat for a while, watched your breath, gotten carried away with your thoughts, or not carried away with your thoughts. It's really important to come, even if you read the biographies of these great people, which are quite fascinating and are in fact a way of teaching these stories. They are teaching stories. It's important to come to them with your own experience. We're not going to be Milarepa. We're not going to be Iochondro, who sat in the dark for 50 years. That was a certain culture and a certain time. And we're practicing to be present to our experience. So that probably doesn't exactly answer your question, but I feel it's an important framing of how we might use these biographies. If you're a practitioner, there could be movies, there are movies. There is a movie about Milarepa. We showed it once, at least once, right? And you could watch it as somebody wants a little entertainment. It's quite a good story, causing hailstorms and repenting and then sitting in caves for a long time in the beautiful Himalayas. You could do that, but you could also do something different. You could also be looking at this in terms of your own experience. What does Milarepa have to say? He said, for example, it's really important. He said, I wasn't born, an enlightened being. I had to work at it. Well, that's interesting. Maybe that says something to me. Probably would be useful if I have a daily practice as much as possible, because Milarepa is saying that it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, as Harvey also said. And one of the reasons he says that is because he knows that, we know that, we all know that, I think, from our own experience. And it's also the story of the great practitioners.
So I think one of the things that Ann and I are really oriented towards doing is, this is very, very difficult actually for all of us, is to see our psycho-spiritual practice as a way of becoming more aware of who we are to an ultimate depth. So one of the things I would be curious about is what interests you in hearing about what's gone on for the meditators in the past. How does that relate to your life and your interest?
I guess I was just curious, because to me, when I meditate, I have had some insights into how to deal with calming my mind on some experiences that have disturbed me.
Some experiences,
Some that have disturbed me,
right?
and how to deal with. I've learned in some of the meditation how to deal with that, and forgiveness,
Wonderful.
that kind of thing.
So I'm hearing there have
But
been
I was wondering, because here, I guess how could you sit there for days and what exactly, I mean, once you become enlightened, why would you even continue the meditation? What is in it for them?
right.
Yeah.
So those are excellent questions. And imagine being in a state where the question, what's in it for me, no longer had any power. What would that state of existence be like if you weren't thinking, what's in it for me? I mean, we definitely think that way.
Yes.
But it's kind of curious. You know, there are a lot of ways to think about that, but one, and there'd be many layers to it, but one of the earlier levels of ways of thinking about that is that this would be according to the Theravada tradition, but it's a kind of useful thing to hear. When we meditate, we're putting our mind on for example, on our breathing, and then we're sort of just resting in that process of breathing. In the psychology of meditation, as it's articulated in the Theravada tradition, they say if you do that in a kind of continual manner, there is a factor of mind or a quality of mind that arises quite naturally, and it's called pleasurable interest. And pleasurable interest is just that. It's like something as seemingly boring and uninteresting as the breath, the process of breath, becomes extraordinarily fascinating and pleasurably so. And in the Theravada tradition, they call pleasurable interest the food of meditators. And so if we do a certain amount of retreat and we see that we're putting our mind on our breath and then we're resting in the breathing, and all of a sudden it's like, who would have known that something so seemingly boring, and yesterday it was that boring, today becomes like better than any TV show I've ever watched. It's kind of mind-blowing. And if we haven't experienced that, it's in fact pretty hard to understand. Why would you sit in a cave for that long? But that's at least one opening. Another is the whole motivation of compassion, that we're doing something that we understand will lead to a capacity of wisdom that will be of tremendous benefit to others. That's a whole other conversation to be had about why sit in a cave. That's a good set of questions.
Okay. About a year ago, thanks to Claire.
Like
You
an
hold it,
ice
yeah.
cream cone, exactly, 45
Is this
angle.
better? Okay. I eat
You-
an ice cone. I eat ice cream like this, but this, okay.
That's a problem.
You're now passing microphone, okay.
Thanks to Claire, about a year ago, she told me about this incredible app called Lyft. And because of this app, I have been able to be much more successful in my practice in terms of commitment. So I really
appreciate that, Claire, and I offer it to anyone else to whom it might be useful. But I have a practical question about, if you can answer it, about meditating on the four thoughts. And if you have any suggestions about sort of a practical way to do that, because I came up with this very elaborate scheme as to how I was going to do it, and it was way too complicated.
That's a good learning.
It was.
Yeah, really.
So that would be very helpful, and I would like to hear any thoughts that you have about the four thoughts and how to meditate on them.
Maybe we could just include her in a rotation and have a private conversation with her.
Yeah. That might be even better as a private conversation, if you like, because I think you're right that doing it a simple way is a very good idea. And I'm not sure where you were, if you were at any of the retreats where we talked about it or something like that, but we can talk to you.
Why don't you write an email to info@dawnmountain.org and ask to forward it to us, and we'll get in touch with you to set something up to talk with you.
Is that okay? It's not burning. We don't, because I think a number of people here aren't familiar with that, so better just to talk to you.
It's a great question. but
Fine tune it to
we'll
you.
talk
It's
with you
very
privately.
important. It's very important.
Yes, Evan.
Okay, Evan. Then we'll have a break.
Is that on?
This is the core question at Dawn Mountain.
Are the speakers?
Now it's on.
Is
Okay.
it on? Yes.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Evan. I have a question for Anne about exercise as meditation. A friend of mine, actually my roommate, told me that he meditates when he's running, and I thought that was silly until I tried kind of while I was swimming, and I was just curious what your thoughts were.
What did
on
you
that.
do while you were swimming?
I just breathe.
You were doing that before you decided to meditate, weren't you? What do you mean you just breathed?
Well, I mean, usually when I exercise, my mind races
Uh-huh.
with lots of thoughts,
Okay.
and I tend to value those thoughts as being clear. But when I
Right.
try to stop thinking and just focus on my breath, it
Mhm.
felt kind of like I was meditating.
Yeah,
But-
so you
but-
were aware of your breath as you were swimming.
But it was different
Different than what?
than the meditation we do here. It felt different.
Yes, it would be different. I mean, sometimes I say meditation is, there are many varieties of meditation. It's not just one thing. You think of a word like dance, okay? It encompasses, ballet, hip hop, rock and roll, things that don't look at all alike, but we call them all dance. So if you are letting your mind be present to your breath when you swim, you probably are more focused and probably end up feeling more kind of coherent after you've swum than if your mind is always racing wildly. So this is a form of meditation. I think that the deeper one, there's also, there actually are practices of doing meditation as dance. There are sacred dances. There are movements that one might do in meditation, as a meditation. So everything can be included in meditation. But then there are different kinds of meditation, getting really anchored in your body in a certain way. Or if you're in meditation to cultivate love, you could ruminate about it as you're swimming, and wish well for all the other people in the pool with you, or something like that. You can always exercise some kind of meditation. I just would hesitate to say that should be instead of, a seated meditation or a really focused meditation. But they can certainly feed each other. Sure, you can meditate as you're walking. There is tradition of walking meditation. Got to be careful about the driving thing, But, being present is always going to be a good thing.
So the book that's going around, just as an aside, is a book, if there's anybody we want us to offer good thoughts for, or pray for, or hold in our good wishes at the end, we put people's names in. People who have passed recently, we put their names in.
So we will do that when we close. And
Let
meanwhile,
me advertise
now we'll...
this. say something
Right
about
now,
that.
you want
Yes.
to say that? Okay.
Before the break, please hold this date, September 27th, 2014, from 10 to 3. We are going to have a interactive workshop based on the book by Robert Thurman and Sharon Salzberg, Love Your Enemies. It will be at the Rothko Chapel. Anne and I will be moderating and participating in that conversation as well. And there's information on these cards. There's lunches included in the $100 ticket. We encourage you to come and let your friends know. It promises to be a very wonderful occasion. Saturday, September 27th, Love Your Enemies.
Mary Scott pointed out the other day that this is the first time it's a world premiere of the four of us, although we all actually know each other, that the four of us are going to be together doing something. So we welcome you to that. We also welcome you back to our Teaching Tuesdays, which continue 2 weeks from tonight. So with that invitation, we have a break, and then we'll come back and close.
Dawn Mountain offers traditional Buddhist teachings, primarily in the Tibetan tradition, in a way that is accessible to contemporary Americans. Having studied and practiced for many years under recognized Tibetan masters, and understanding that these teachings provide a way to realize the natural state of mind that embodies profound wisdom and deep love, Anne Klein and Harvey Aronson wish to share these traditions here in the United States. As a result, they established Dawn Mountain in June 1996, based on the core belief that it is possible to cultivate a better understanding of our deepest nature, which in turn facilitates new levels of mental calm and self-acceptance.
So our inspiration really comes from our love and gratitude to our own teachers. They spent so much time and care with us over many, many years.
Kaizen Rinpoche was extraordinarily compassionate. He had a terrific sense of humor. And just his ability to be present and immediate and just there. Adzon Rinpoche is extraordinarily compassionate and grounded.
And we've had extraordinary experiences with Adzon Rinpoche, whom I met in Tibet in 96. And I've had many hours of just, one-on-one conversation, a person who has tens of thousands of students to attend to. Okay, there's this wealth of cultural wisdom in Tibet. It's encoded in texts, in practices, in rituals, in art, and many people in the West are attracted to it, and yet Westerners are Westerners. We're Westerners. We're not monastics. We may dedicate our lives to practice in our heart of hearts, but we have families, we have jobs, we have all kinds of responsibilities. So how can we communicate and really experience transformation through these practices? For that, some kind of bridging is necessary. We're also a community center, nonprofit community center, which is the hub of our work extending life skills, the life skills of cultivating calm, of cultivating ease in life, of cultivating kindness.
What did you do today that you liked?
Make make the glittery thing to show your anger.
And what happened when you shook up the glittery thing?
It made me feel a little bit like I wanted to meditate in peace.
And then the Research Institute is where we look at what we can provide by way of information gained through research for the interested public. So we've mentioned that our own teachings here, which are drawn from work that we've done, our own translation work, our own study, and so forth, some of these will start appearing as pamphlets for practitioners here, and some of them will become books that will be published and will be widely available to the larger public. And I am right now in the process of gathering a team to translate a text from this tradition, which he powerfully feels, and which I also have a very, very strong wish to see translated, and we hope to do more of that. We've seen people telling us how their lives have changed, how their lives are improved, the comfort, the inspiration that they feel coming to Dawn Mountain. We really are inspired to envision a way that Dawn Mountain becomes a stable beacon and place of gathering for people who wish to practice at whatever level.
I trust the teachings. I feel in the place. I feel that I am constantly fed.
And I can feel my breathing better because of the way my legs are positioned.
How long have you been sitting like that?
I learned it when I started coming here.
And it's not only been in the spiritual sense, but also in every aspect of my daily life. I feel that I'm less stressed out. I don't get as angry or as depressed as I used to.
It's good. It teaches me how to kind of relax and be mindful and help with school and stuff like that whenever I get aggravated.
One of our projects that has come to partial fruition is that we have developed a curriculum, which is posted on our website, that explains the open matrix of what a spiritual path can be supported here at Dawn Mountain.
We've slowly become aware of the power of the media, and it is clear now that there is great interest in both our broadcasts from here, and from time to time we might be able to have broadcasts from Asia with Adzom Rinpoche or his sister Anila. Without students there are no teachers, and without teachers there are no students. We all dependently create one another. So we're very, very excited by the energy that is in the community. The community is alive, it is supportive, it is growing, and it really wishes to thrive, and we want to participate in that thriving in every way that we can. But we're really talking about finding a space of shared values. And if individuals share the values that we have in terms of coming to a deep appreciation of our innermost nature, then come and participate. That's the most significant thing that we can do together. Just sharing our participation is lovely and meaningful. And anything above and beyond that by way of offering service for this community, offering financial, flows naturally. And we expect that that will just be a natural outflow for people because of that shared interest.
Dawn Mountain offers traditional Buddhist teachings primarily in the Tibetan tradition in a way that is accessible to contemporary Americans. Having studied and practiced for many years under recognized Tibetan masters, and understanding that these teachings provide a way to realize the natural state of mind that embodies profound wisdom and deep love, Anne Klein and Harvey Aronson wish to share these traditions here in the United States. As a result, they established Dawn Mountain in June 1996, based on the core belief that it is possible to cultivate a better understanding of our deepest nature, which in turn facilitates new levels of mental calm and self-acceptance.
So our inspiration really comes from our love and gratitude to our own teachers. They spent so much time and care with us over many, many years.
Kaizen Rinpoche was extraordinarily compassionate. He had a terrific sense of humor. And just his ability to be present and immediate and just there. Adzon Rinpoche is extraordinarily compassionate and grounded.
And we've had extraordinary experiences with Adzon Rinpoche, whom I met in Tibet in 96. And I've had many hours of just, one-on-one conversation, a person who has tens of thousands of students to attend to. Okay, there's this wealth of cultural wisdom in Tibet. It's encoded in texts, in practices, in rituals, in art, and many people in the West are attracted to it, and yet Westerners are Westerners. We're Westerners. We're not monastics. We may dedicate our lives to practice in our heart of hearts, but we have families, we have jobs, we have all kinds of responsibilities. So how can we communicate and really experience transformation through these practices? For that, some kind of bridging is necessary. We're also a community center, nonprofit community center, which is the hub of our work extending life skills, the life skills of cultivating calm, of cultivating ease in life, of cultivating kindness.
What did you do today that you liked?
Make the glittery thing to show your anger.
And what happened when you shook up the glittery thing?
It made me feel a little bit like I wanted to meditate in peace.
And then the Research Institute is where we look at what we can provide by way of information gained through research for the interested public. So we've mentioned that our own teachings here, which are drawn from work that we've done, our own translation work, our own study, and so forth, some of these will start appearing as pamphlets for practitioners here, and some of them will become books that will be published and will be widely available to the larger public. And I am right now in the process of gathering a team to translate a text from this tradition, which he powerfully feels, and which I also have a very, very strong wish to see translated. And we hope to do more of that. We've seen people telling us how their lives have changed, how their lives are improved, the comfort, the inspiration that they feel coming to Dawn Mountain. We really are inspired to envision a way that Dawn Mountain becomes a stable beacon and place of gathering for people who wish to practice at whatever level.
I trust the teachings. I feel in the place. I feel that I am constantly fed.
And I can feel my breathing better because of the way my legs are positioned.
How long have you been sitting like that?
I learned it when I started coming here.
And it's not only been in the spiritual sense, but also in every aspect of my daily life. I feel that I'm less stressed out. I don't get as angry or as depressed as I used to.
It's good. It teaches me how to like kind of relax and be mindful and help with school and stuff like that whenever I get aggravated.
One of our projects that has come to partial fruition is that we have developed a curriculum, which is posted on our website, that is explains the open matrix of what a path, spiritual path, can be supported here at Dawn Mountain.
We've slowly become aware of the power of the media, and it is clear now that there is great interest in both our broadcasts from here, and from time to time we might be able to have broadcasts from Asia with Adzom Rinpoche or his sister Anila. Without students, there are no teachers, and without teachers, there are no students. We all dependently create one another. So we're very, very excited by the energy that is in the community. The community is alive, it is supportive, it is growing, and it really wishes to thrive, and we want to participate in that thriving in every way that we can. But we're really talking about finding a space of shared values, and if individuals share the values.
So we close, the main thing that we do in closing really is touch back into our place of being present as we are able to. And then we send out all this good energy that's been gathering, whether you know it or not, actually. The positive intention that you began with, that this be of benefit. The wish underlying everything we did tonight, that may all beings be happy, may they be free of suffering. So there's actually positivity in that's at some level present in your body, in your mind, in your organism. And naturally now we want to share this. And that's basically what we're doing. Do you want to say anything? No? Okay. Unzela, can you direct us to the...
And who shall we have light the candle?
Who shall we? Maybe, Robert, when we get to it, would you light the candle? Thank you so much.
We need the book.
Yeah, just the simplest version of all those
just
things.
English, just the English.
The dedication and then the blessing. No prayers? No teacher prayers? No teacher prayers.
We need the book. Chris?
Okay. So take a moment, give us a moment to get back to your space, that's all, just very simply. Just so you're again at rest. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Recite the dedication on the sheet of paper. By this good
May I swiftly once become a great guru, lead all beings, everyone, to reach to that very ground.
The aspiration, no? The blessing.
Okay.
The blessing.
The blessing with the candle. Thank you.
With
All of you in mind we light this lamp of clarity. May the glow of love wisdom shine within us everyone.
till we all rise forth born in one enlightened mandala.
And while we hold all beings in our mind, we in particular tonight think of Pat Macon, Susan L., Jennifer, Dr. Gloria L. in retreat, Steve Tainer, Kathy Kerr, Nam, Tabby and Kaiden and baby and family, Kate, Bobby, all ill children, Tina and her boyfriend, my neighbor downstairs, Daniel Symes, Dodie and Robert, Kevin and Dow, David, Teresa, Juan, Larry, Evan, Renee, Margaret, Angie, Nancy, Mom, Barlow family, Luco family, all sentient beings, all creatures in captivity, Karen, McGee family, Neville family, Anne, Jim, Jake, Heather, Jessica, Larry, Louis, Lois, Blake, me, Lee H., Lynn and Bardo, Lind, Shannon, Aliza, Nancy and Bardo, Doug, Martha, Audrey, students starting school, Sue B., Helen, Middle East, our political leaders, heal the violence in Missouri and other places in the USA that continue to experience racial bias, heal those affected by bombing in Gaza, heal those affected by gun violence, especially in the USA. George Williams, Eleanor Day, Sarah P., Ellen, Andrea, Daniel, Jasmine, Sheila, Vivek, Mom, Dad, Jessica, Shante, Talisha, Miriam, Malak, Fadia, Sam, Monica, Reginald, Elvis, Emuka, Bryna, Reggie, Naria, Reginald, looks like Ospie, what is it? What? Ospie, Wahid, Obioma, Mac, Amy, Stephanie, Dad, Sharon and Mark Fowler, Brooke, Eric and Phil, Samata, Robert Elkin, Dorte, Juan Montez, Tim Marvin, Luli, and Kathy Ho.
We'll sound one ah.
So may all beings benefit from our collective dedication. And thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to seeing you 2 weeks from tonight. There is also practice on Tuesday. People who wish to gather together and do practice Tuesday at 6:30.
And Sundays at 11, there's a meditation.
Sundays at 11. And you're all
Open to
welcome.
all.
Bring your friends. And we look forward to seeing you again.